Kevin, let's bring in our next guest, and that's Megan Brantley, the Vice President of Research at LikeFolio.com. Thanks for joining us on this Friday, Megan.
Hey, guys.
All right, Megan, so we're talking gaming stocks. We've had some pressure on some of the names, probably due to some accusations on CEOs to Activision Blizzard. But as a whole, going into one of the biggest seasons for gaming and sales moving forward, what kind of data are you showing on the gaming sector?
Yeah, so whenever we look at gaming, obviously a year ago, this is something that consumers were doing a lot. So we're seeing some just year-over-year tempering, but what we are seeing is we're starting to see that momentum build again into this season. This is the big season as people, pick up games for the holidays and they're spending a little bit more time inside. And we're seeing that a lot of those new gamers that we talked about that came to the table over the pandemic, a lot of those are sticking around. One area specifically is people talking about who are playing these games online, or they're even playing these games on their phone. Those mentions are showing strength comparatively. So when we look at that general trend, we see those about 13% higher than 2019. So this tells us that, yes, while there's some year-over-year tempering, there are still more players playing these games than there were prior to the pandemic, and they're sticking around and they're still playing these games. And you can see those mentions right there on that blue line. And I think that one thing that's really interesting is we're seeing a lot of strength specifically in this mobile gaming. We talk a lot about people are making purchases on their mobile devices. Well, people are also playing more games on their mobile devices. When we look at mobile gaming specifically, those are up about 40% year over year. So those are building on the strength from last year. And so we start to see that reflected in a lot of the games specifically that we're following, specifically this quarter-over-quarter momentum. I think Roblox is one that's showing strength. Obviously, they just had a huge report this week, but you can see the building strength whenever you look at the demand mentions of people who are talking about playing this game. And I think it's interesting because when you consider the platform that Roblox is on, you think this is an online game, and a lot of it is played on mobile devices. I think around 79% of Roblox games are played on a mobile device. So this is really interesting. These are some really cool trends to watch moving forward, and it definitely helps inform, just one of the many reasons why Roblox is performing so well.
Megan, is there, it appears to me that the makeup of Roblox as a company, right? The fact that it's kind of a user interactive game, right? The user makes the game. They kind of create their own game. Are they in a different ballpark than the other gaming stocks because of their almost self-driving, self-made video games? Are they destined to break out into their own sector based on this? You've got a lot of these names. I mean, this is the first time I ever remember LikeFolio's data coming in with no negative data on any of these names. If you notice, the axes are all positive, right? In both, in this way and that way. So this is pretty positive data on these names, but you've got Roblox, I mean, total mentions up 140%. Is this like the next, I guess, frontier for gaming, is to go on there and make your own game? And should they be thought of differently as some of the other companies?
I think that in a way they should be, because this, like you said, they almost have this self-fulfilling cycle of they have developers, external developers, just users like you and me that are able to go on and create these experiences, is what they call them, and then other people can play them. So they're not having to make these huge investments on building out a game or these new releases like some of these other, traditional game makers may have to do whenever they're developing these big names like a Call of Duty, for example. With Roblox, you have regular users who can create these games, who can create thousands of these games, and that's what these users are playing. I think that Roblox it's really interesting too, because we're starting to see a lot of brand partnerships within Roblox, right? You've got Nike that just announced that they're building this virtual world Nike Land within the Roblox platform. You've got Vans that's involved. I think Chipotle, they released a maze where you could actually, play and receive a real life, digital or real life coupon for a burrito. So you have a lot of these opportunities for brand engagement with this audience that skews a little bit younger, but is about to enter and be able to, actually buy these things in real life. So I think that, we're starting to see a lot of that interest in brand. We're starting to see a lot of whenever Chipotle did launch this, we saw a lot of mention spike of people who are playing Roblox. So I think that crossover potential is something that these other gamers just don't have.
Yeah, and speaking of crossovers, when you're looking at other companies within this particular space, you have your EAs, your Activision, Blizzards, but now, Megan, you're starting to see other companies get involved in gaming. You've got the metaverse coming, right? Roblox is probably going to be in the middle of that. But then you've also got Amazon trying to get into the gaming space. Netflix is out there. So when you guys look at your data on a seasonal basis, and then you break it down between the companies that are already established, are you starting to see more pickup in a lot of those other companies based on their mentions when they're talking about gaming?
We are starting to see some traction for Activision, specifically with their Call of Duty. We're starting to see traction with Take-Two, that their NBA 2K franchise is performing well. We haven't really broken into the specific, I know Apple has like a gaming platform. We're not seeing a ton of mentions from that specifically, but I do think that people are realizing that, consumers want to be able to play games. They want to be able to play games on their phone. And whenever you have a content engine like Apple, even like Netflix, I believe they're getting into gaming as well. Whenever you have that ability and you already have that digital presence, it seems like a natural crossover there. However, Roblox, I think, has the biggest first mover advantage. They've already built out this enormous, they were a buyer into the metaverse years ago. And so they've created this self-fulfilling, this self-created world that now they're just sustaining and trying to keep users happy. Just to give scale for how large Roblox, what type of influence it has. Their platform went down for a couple of days at the end of October. And on the day that platform went down, we recorded over 400,000 mentions from people talking about Roblox and talking about trying to play the game and not being able to. Just to give scale, daily we get about 60,000 mentions for Apple a day. So this was a huge surge and a huge interest in this gaming platform specifically. So I think this is just a sign of just how engaged those users are. So for now, at least, Roblox definitely has a first mover advantage.
Yeah, and if you look at, maybe some of those comments, probably not the most positive comments if their platform's down at those times, because I've seen those videos, Megan, when gamers can't play their games or their parents turn it off. It's crazy how they are active on those platforms. But if you look at this space and the trends, is it seasonal as far as the number of mentions? As you mentioned, we're going into the historically strong fourth quarter holiday shopping season. Is this a seasonal thing that you guys take into account?
I think that there is a seasonal nature to things. For some of the more traditional games, it may not necessarily be seasonal. It may be more related to when different games and when new games are released. That's when we typically see a peak. But for Roblox specifically, this isn't necessarily dependent on a new game being released. There are thousands of new games that are being created pretty regularly. And so we do see some seasonality specifically in Roblox in this fourth quarter. But when we look at how this quarter is performing versus, say, the same quarter a year ago, we actually see mentions of our pacing right now, and we're about a month and a half in, to be about 30% higher than they were a year ago. And then when we look at the demand mentions of people who are talking about actually playing Roblox, those are about 24% higher year over year in this 21 Q4. So that one, I believe the quarter started October 1st. So far, we're seeing this sustained traction heading into this big holiday season for Roblox, and we're only about a month and a half in. So I think that's a good sign for Roblox that they're able to deliver, continued growth even on the massive success that they had last year.
Yeah, and during their investor day or earlier this week, the CEO came out and said they're on track to meeting their goals. They want 1 billion monthly active users on that platform, which would be astronomical. All right, Megan, great information and data as always. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. You too.
All right, that's Megan Brantley, the VP of Research at LikeFolio.com.